31, 2021, 12:43:04.
Hello.
Hi, can I speak to Kevin Glowicki, please?
This is Tim.
Kevin, this is Lieutenant Maslow at Kenosha Police. Hey, I got your records requests from March 16th, and got them all processed. They're ready to be picked up.
Okay.
Do you have an email that I can email them to, or do you just want me to have them in an envelope at the front counter?
Yeah, if you want to email them to me, that'd be good.
Sure. Go ahead with your email.
Oh, you have a pen? Sure.
Yep.
It's Never.Stop.Voices @gmail.com.
Is Never.Stop.Voices all one?
Yeah, one
word. Okay.
Yep.
All right. All right. I will send these off to you in email. If you have questions, feel free to call me. You're not going to be happy with the responses because they're very similar to the responses that I've given you before.
So if you have 9 again?
Yes, I am. But I'm giving you the reasons. I'm giving you the reasons for denial. So if you look at the reasons, it might offer some benefit for you to look at the reasons for denial and try something different.
Of course. All right. I have a couple of questions since I finally have you on the phone.
Yeah.
So first thing, so I've repeatedly tried to get your guys' press release email list. I've actually sent you multiple emails.
Yes.
Regarding that. So I'm a legitimate journalist. I have a registered company, insured. I'm trying to be able to report news from KPD. So how do I get on that list?
Well, I have had similar requests from many different agencies, from independent journalists, right up to CNN, MSNBC, and all that stuff. I have denied all of them. I'm not adding any of them to my email list. I have my email list created. I have the journal companies, the journalistic companies that I send them out to on a regular basis, and I'm not adding everybody that wants to be added to the list. But it's nothing specific to do with you or your company just because you're an independent media or independent journalist. Like I said, I've denied CNN too. I've got the same request. Associated Press, well, no, the AP's on there.
But you've added a YouTube influencer.
Who is that?
Corey. Corey gets your press releases.
Well,
Corey's made it very clear that he's not a journalist. He's just an influencer.
Corey Elijah is not on my email list. He is not part of my email group. So how he's getting them, I don't know. But he is not part of my group.
Okay.
100%. Not part of my group. And he's, to my recollection, Corey's never asked.
Yeah, in one of his videos, one of his live streams, he put out that he was getting all of the KPD press releases. Regardless, is there a reason that you're denying new media that's trying to get press releases?
It's in order to do that, you got to go in, and this sounds trivial, but I have to go in, I have to recreate my global address book and all that stuff, and it's stuff that's out of the normal scope of my daily routine, and that's it's part of it's written in statute, in public record statute, and there's really nothing that says that I have to send this stuff to people, like I have to send a media release to people. It's basically up to me. So there's really no state law or anything that mandates that. Now, if I was adding, everybody, if there was some bias towards you for some reason, you would have a case. But there's not. I mean, I have my established media list that I walked into this job with, and it's the same list. I'm working off the same list. I didn't alter it at all.
Right. So in that part I get.
Yeah.
It's just obviously like being media, we're trying to, obviously report like different things that are going on and
sure.
and whatnot. Now I will bring up with some of the fact of specifically denying me certain things. you guys have released documents to other media outlets that you won't even give me.
Okay.
Which is
okay.
kind of an issue.
What specifically are you talking about?
Well, one thing in specific is Pablo Torres' personnel file. You guys released all that to Fox 6 several years ago after the Aaron Seiler shooting. That's an open records request that I filed. Fox 6 has it, but you won't give me anything to do with that personnel file.
Okay. Well, I will tell you, perhaps try to get a hold of the records request that Fox 6 made, or see if or just ask. And there's got to be people out there that you can talk to. So I'm not trying to be a jackass about it.
Right, but I shouldn't have to call Fox 6 up and say, "Hey,
no," but it's not my job. It's not my job to teach you how to write a records request either. Okay, so if you can read between the lines, I'm trying to help you out here. Okay, if you look at the reasons for my denials and read between the lines with the reasons that I'm giving you, try something different, you may get a different response. Okay.
Right, but in the previous denials that you've given me, you've claimed everything has been overly burdensome. Is it the same type of request that I file with every other police department? And I've never gotten back an overly burdensome denial.
Okay.
Even on simple things where I'm specifically looking for an incident report. It's a one-page document, and I'm getting denied.
You know what? If you were to send me a records request for an incident report for a case that was closed, there was no more right to appeal or anything like that, you would get that. There's no reason to not deny it. Unless it was something that was statutory, there was a statutory preclusion to the release of that, like mental health or like, a juvenile sexual assault or, something along those lines. But if it's just a run-of-the-mill battery complaint, it's closed in circuit court, it's not going to affect a prosecution or a defense, there's no more rights to appeal, I mean, everything is done, then you would get the report.
All right, my next thing is, so when I picked up the previous denials, in those letters, it states that the request that I had put in is attached to the denial. I never got that. I just got the denial letter from the individual at the counter there.
Okay.
So I have no idea at this point which request you've actually denied from previous things.
So I can tell you what I have from you. Give me 1 second. So from you, where are you? There. I have a request from January 14th. I have a request from January 20th.
Can you tell me which ones those are?
So January 14th. Yeah, I can send these to you also. You're looking for dates of records from August 23rd through August 30th. Gas cam footage, body cam footage, drone footage, CCTV, yada yada, your standard request.
Right, which you guys have denied twice for two different reasons.
So that's that one. And then January 20th is materials including emails, bullet points, notes, PowerPoints, memos, files. Again, kind of like one of your standard requests. Looking for following keywords: taser, taser deployed, terminated, fired, discipline, suspension. Specific dates between January 20th and January 1st. Well, January 1 to January 1 from 2020 to 2021.
one was denied?
Yes, that was denied. I sent you a denial letter.
For being overly burdensome.
Yep. Pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.351H, public records requests must be reasonably narrow and specific as to the subject matter and length of time involved in a particular request.
Okay. The other ones?
Those are in the LPR. Let's see. I don't think I sent you. Yeah, I did. Right in response. So this was one for an LPR request. You're looking for materials, emails, bullet points, notes, PowerPoints, memos, yada, yada. That have to do with all the following keywords: ALPR, automatic license plate reader, license plate reader, facial recognition, vigilant solutions. Records may exist that are relevant to your request. However, giving consideration to the announcement made yesterday by the Kenosha Police Daniel Veskinis, I'm asking if you still wish to follow through with this request. And I never heard back from you on that.
I never received anything. The only thing I got pertaining to the ALPR request was your voicemail that you were in receipt of that records request. Okay. That's actually the only confirmation I've ever gotten from you regarding any open records request I've ever put in. Okay. I guess the answer to that is yes, and regardless of whether or not you guys are not proceeding with ALPRs at this time, I still want records regarding.
All right, so I'll make a note of that, and I'll tell you then that verbally that request is once again received, and you still wish to proceed with that. So I'll make a note of that. And I believe there was another, you came in, so you're filing all these requests to, through Kenosha Joint Services Records Bureau. And when you make a records request, they fill out a little form, and that form is, so to speak, a receipt of the record, a receipt of the request. Usually it's a common courtesy, for a records custodian to call somebody and say, hey, I've received you. Like if I was to receive a request directly from you via email, I would send you an email back to say that this request is received. You've never sent one to me directly. You've always funneled them through Kenosha Joint Services. And they fill out the request for copies of reports, and actually you fill it out, and you turn it into them, so you know that your request is received. And I believe that some of the issue, too, with you not receiving responses is that you've provided addresses before. You never provided an email address, but you provided addresses. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you've moved around a couple of times in the last year, and it's possible.
Yeah, because I have lunatics that are stalking me.
Yeah, so it's possible that letters may have come back that the recipient no longer lives at this address. And
no, they're valid addresses. There's people there that collect my mail. Okay. It's mailing addresses that of people I trust.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you that if something had come back that the recipient no longer lives at this address, we save that. So we have the proof, we have the documentation that, hey, the response was sent to the address provided, and, it's out of our hands once it leaves here.
Have you received anything back?
I believe we have, yeah, and I believe I instructed the Joint Services Records Bureau to scan that stuff and save it. So we have proof.
Do you have copies? Do you have copies of that you can email me?
I can look into it, and I believe I do have copies that say that something was returned. So I'll email it to you also.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to cut the middle person out, Kenosha Joint Services, you can email your records request directly to me. And my email is pretty easy. It's pio@kenoshapolice.com. Okay. So you know what? I mean, public records are pretty cut and dry and straightforward. There's not too many arguments that, I mean, I'm suspecting you've looked at the public record statutes.
I've read the entire 96-page guideline. I've also talked to our legal team as well as other journalists. Even upon denial, like the first thing regarding Kenosha and the arrest that I filed, one of the very original ones, I could understand the argument from your end of this is overly burdensome, because I put, like, this was one of the very first requests that I've ever put in, so it was a little ridiculous, where, like, I put protester, but then I pluralized it and wrote protesters, so there's a lot of unnecessary verbiage that's kind of redundant, and then at which time, so I get the denial that I have to go through the DA's office, which is against guidelines. So then I modified it and I simplified it down, but then it was denied that it was overly burdensome. So it's confusing now because it's two different reasons. But each one of my records requests that I've put in, like I said, one, it's the same type of request that, and obviously I changed different things, right? Verbiage, keywords, whatever, with other departments, and I've never gotten back. I've never gotten back a denial. It's always been fulfilled. But Kenosha doesn't seem to want to do any of the requests. We've put in 13, plus the recent ones now that you're saying you're denying me for. So it's another, what, five or six?
Yeah, there's 5 here.
Okay, so that's 18 requests now in the last 8 months. And no matter what I write, it's denied. Yeah, I'm sure these are overly burdensome as well. So it's kind of an issue.
That's a perception on your part, and I can't tell you how you should feel or what your opinion should or shouldn't be. I'm not you, so I have no business telling you that. But I can tell you that public records law are pretty straightforward. If you ask for something the appropriate way, and if you have a legal right to see the document, and there's no statutory preclusion or no case law that supports denial of the record, you'll get the record. It may be redacted, there might be redactions in the records, but you'll get the record.
Right, sure. That I understand.
Yeah.
But some of the different things that I've requested, I'm looking specifically for an incident report from August 25th at a specific address with a specific officer. How much more clarity does somebody need for that? Does that make sense? If I put the specific address, the specific date, and specific officer involved, it's not something that's overly complicated to... No,
that doesn't sound overly complicated.
Right, but I'm denied on it for being overly burdensome.
Okay.
It's a one-page...
That request I don't have in front of me, so I really can't give you a verbal answer on that. But I did deny it to you in writing, yes?
Well, and that's the thing, is that with the denials, because I'm not getting the attachments, with them, there is some confusion on which requests I'm, actually being denied on, and which ones I'm essentially still waiting for, or respectfully just being blatantly ignored on it. I even filed, pertaining to the Kenosha stuff. It's the same stuff that I've filed with the United States Marshals, and the same exact verbiage, no different than what I've sent you. And I'm approved for it. It's not overly burdensome.
Okay.
So, that just that leads to my confusion then too, where it's like, okay, well, I don't understand why one government entity, same exact verbiage, is saying that this is not an overly burdensome thing, that they're going to, release records. The same thing I've sent to Wauwatosa when it comes to, their stuff that happened out in Tosa. One of the requests I sent with you for, I think it was basically 11 years worth of documents. I did virtually the same thing with way more keywords with Tosa and asked for 20 years worth of documents. And that's not overly burdensome. They're processing that request. You know what I mean? So I guess that's just where...
So my answer to that is, although public records law is the same for every government aid, not every agency is the same. All right, so in the freedom, and the U.S. Marshals are obviously federal, so they rely on the Freedom of Information Act. Their agency is not the same as Kenosha Police. I have no idea what type of staff they have there, what their resources are. I have no clue. Maybe it's not overburdensome to them. And, perhaps we're here, something may be overburdensome in the way that you're asking the request. So I'm trying very hard to give you. It's not my job to teach you how to write the records request. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But
no, I get that. And like I said, I mean, I've researched the FOIA Act and the guidelines pertaining specifically to Wisconsin, and we've also had lawyers look over our request too to make sure, because of the continued overly burdensome denials. Where it's like, okay, am I doing something wrong here? Could it be narrowed down?
I'm telling you,
how much more simplified?
In my responses, I'm telling you, yes, you're doing something wrong because you're not getting the documents you're seeking, right? You're getting denial letters. You keep getting denial letters from me. So yes, you're doing something wrong. And I don't know what, I'm not here to bash any legal counsel, but they should be able to tell you, hey, why don't you try this and see where that goes, right? And if you get denied on that, then maybe you'll have a case that you can take to the district attorney, or maybe take it up with the attorney general or something like that. Through the mandamus process.
Right. You're aware that I already filed a mandamus suit, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, there is one.
Okay.
Next time I come down to Kenosha, then, because I just got word that the documents were ready to pick up. So I got to come down there and serve it on you guys. But
okay.
Yeah, I've already filed one.
Okay. All right.
That's based off the previous 13, not this 5.
Okay. All right. Well,
but I'll look at everything.
Hey, if I got the time, I'm always willing to talk with you. All right. If I have the time, and that's things have changed here dramatically since August. Well, then things have changed for police departments as far as the workload goes dramatically. Since the death of Mr. Floyd in Minneapolis. So there's hundreds of independent journalists and regular full-time media outlets that are making records requests and doing all kinds of stuff. So I
understand where if something, because obviously the high demand now, right, with everything that's been going on. That part I get.
It's not like it was.
Even like the Marshal Service said, look, we'll get you this stuff, but you need to understand with COVID and with the extensiveness to what you're actually looking for, this is going to take essentially a serious amount of time. Which that part I'm fine with. You know what I mean? If I have to wait a couple of months, 3 months, whatever it may be, that's fine. I don't mind the wait. You know what I'm saying? It's just, like I said, I understand Corona. I get that. I understand there's could be significant, wait time depending on what I filed. It's just the blatant denials, even for simple things.
Yeah. So all I'll do is ask you to try to look at things, try to get rid of that perspective that you're looking at with blatant denials. All right, I can tell you that my denials are not blatant. They're not a biased denial because it's you or you're an independent journalist. My denials, I would never send them out if I didn't believe they were legitimate and denials that could stand based on statute or case law. So they're not blatant. So just try to look at the denials with an open mind. Try something different next time. And records laws are records laws. I can't deny something, even if I wanted to, even if I did have some type of bias towards you or independent journalism, or no, he shouldn't have this record because I don't want him to have it. You can't do that, So even if I did garner feelings, you can't do it.
I've looked at every time I file or go, I'm about to file, pertaining to whatever it is topic-wise that I'm trying to get records from, I go back to that 96-page long thing, and I look at every reason that an entity would deny me, and then look at Supreme Court case law for approval of it. I can't even get records pertaining to myself. That stuff's been denied.
Okay.
That's a problem, especially considering I have a greater right to those records than any other person. But I can't even get that stuff.
Yep. Okay. So I'll just stick to what I've said, in the conversation here with you. And like I said, if you got questions about stuff, feel free to call me or email me anytime. And let's move forward from here. And we'll see where it goes. Okay. All right. So I'll scan these records requests to you now. The 5 that you submitted on the 16th, I'll scan those to you right away. And then I have notated here that you still do want to proceed with the automatic license plate reader request, and you're interested to see if there's any return to sender documents or requests. So
yeah, for the four that I picked up, I think that was, you guys issued the 4 denials on the 5th. I didn't pick them up until the 17th, but if you have the actual attachment for which records request those denials are specifically for, so I can put that with it so I know, so I'm not like, hey man, I'm still waiting on this, but you had denied that a month ago.
Okay. So
I need to know which ones.
Yeah, I'll see what's available in Kenosha Joint Services and in their records part that they have. I would suggest though to cut out the middle person, to just send your stuff directly to me, and that should be able to help you keep track of your stuff better than what you are right now. All right, because again, not trying to be a jerk about it, but really it's not my job to help you keep track of your records requests. And
it's just like when I'm picking up the denials and the paperwork is saying that the original request is attached and I don't have those attachments.
Okay. All right.
You know what I mean? So that I can, appropriately keep track. So
I got you. So if you pick something up, I suggest opening the envelope up to make sure that what's there makes sense. And if there's not something there, if there's something missing or if something doesn't make sense, ask them about it at the front counter. And if they can't answer it, and if I'm here and available, I'll come out and, answer the question for you and make sure that you get what you need so you can, you understand everything that's coming back to you. So.
Okay. All right. And then last question. Let's say just hypothetically for argument's sake, I file an open records request, it's approved. So I have it set up with certain entities where, sometimes they'll put something on a disk or they'll give it to me on a thumb drive, whatever. If it's large amounts of things, I have an external hard drive that I drop off to them if they can't email it or something. And to save them time and me time plus a little bit of cost from disks and thumb drives. something that you guys are okay with too, where if it's a large amount of files that I can drop off the external hard drive to you to put on there, and then...
So I'm not going to give you a carte blanche answer on that. Police departments have to be careful with stuff that they plug into their computers, okay? And I'm not saying that you're malicious or anything like that, but how do I know that you don't have some type of virus or something like that on that hard drive as soon as I plug it in and it affects our system here and then crashes our system, okay?
Sure.
So I can't give you an answer on that. I'll ask about it. I'm not an IT guy by any stretch, so... yeah, it makes perfect sense. It sounds logical, but there's security considerations that we have to take into account here too. So I can't just plug anything into my computer. It's got to be trusted stuff. So
okay. Yeah, this I had bought this specific one. It has capability for either Windows, Mac, even tablets, cell phones, whatever. And this one is only specifically used for different government bodies to be able to drop off. It's never, plugged into somebody else's systems where I might accidentally get, some type of Trojan thing from someone else's computer.
Right.
It's specifically for the government bodies. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I believe you. I don't think you're malicious about that at all, but. You look at what we're dealing with inside the police department, and I mean, you probably read articles about police department servers crashing and being held hostage and all kinds of shit like that, and it can cripple a police department. So, and who?
Yeah, no, I get that.
Who pays for that?
Right,
the city does. So the likely answer is probably going to be no. We're not doing that. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one more quick question. I'll let you go. I know your time is valuable. In regards to the, so there's the part of the open records policies where certain people, get notified if somebody's trying to pull their records, right?
Yep.
So we obviously have Kevin Matthewson running around. We even wrote an article specifically on him in a leak inside of that courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is that if I'm pulling an open records request as kind of a legitimate journalist, I'm doing all of my stuff, my due diligence, I'm fact checking stuff, I'm making sure that what we put out, it is not intentionally going to harm somebody, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This lunatic is obviously pulling records to kind of cause harm to that person, essentially doxing them, right?
Okay.
So how do we all get notified that this person is pulling records on us? Maintaining his right to do so, but knowing the type of crap that he does with these records where it's causing harm to us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So
he's pulled my stuff.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, he's pulled my stuff, which I understand is public, he has a right to it, but he's used it where there's obviously some unflattering things about my past, where the way he's writing these so-called articles, it's done intentionally to try to discredit, but cause in the future some type of physical harm to me.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's done it obviously to all of us. But
yeah. So I've seen a lot of what you write. I've seen a lot of what Kevin writes, and some other Facebookers and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't disagree that there's some, for lack of a better way to say it, shit being flung around, on social media. When it pertains to public records and the release of reports and stuff like that, I think what you're referring to is a Wisnicki case law. And if somebody requests, so say you were to make a request for my disciplinary files, as a custodian of records, employees of government agencies have a right to know that somebody has requested their disciplinary file. And they have a right to petition the court to block the release of that disciplinary file. The same right doesn't carry over to just everyday citizens. It's for employees of the agency. So you don't Woznicki, the Woznicki, you can look that up. It's Woznicki. If you type that in.
Yeah, I've read it. I was just confused on whether it
doesn't
only
pertain
applied to.
Yeah, it doesn't pertain to Joe Citizen.
Okay, so then in the balancing test element of the 4 steps and everything that's involved in the 4 steps, like, is that something, specifically regarding Mathewson, is that something considered when he's specifically filing on an individual? Like, especially if it's somebody like me or just everyday activist type.
So the balancing test is performed pretty much the same, no matter who regards or who is making the request, regardless of who's making the request. I have to do this balancing test. And that's very ambiguous, and the state hasn't weighed in much on that. That's when the state kind of punted and said, yeah, we're just going to leave it up to each individual records custodian. I can tell you that I have denied records to people in the past based on a balancing test, where I felt the release of those records could the actual release of the record could disclose something that could put somebody's life in danger or, reputational interests and things like that. I have denied them in the past. That is and if I see fit to do that, I'll certainly deny it to anybody. I've denied records to even some high-profile attorneys, which I'm sure I'll hear back from. But it's if I feel something should be denied and I can state reasons for it, I will. But yeah, I mean, if it can be released, it's going to be released. I mean, if I really can't say that, hey, there's no plausible thing here to say that if I release this record, that your life is going to be in danger because of it. I have to be able to articulate known articulable facts, because if I deny a record and that person comes back and tries to take me to court over the denial, I have to be able to have articulable facts to say to a judge or to the attorney general, this is why I released it. Because if I release this, I know that this group is actively making death threats and they're just waiting to find out where he's laying his head. And if I release this could disclose where he's laying his head, thus jeopardizing his life. And
that was one of the concerns with me, where essentially I got chased out of Kenosha because of these different militia groups. Kevin Mathewson's, article, so-called article that is extremely misleading about me. And I physically have people showing up to hotels, addresses that I'm staying at, ripping my IP address, different things where it's, anybody pulling, because there's a lot of people in various areas that are pulling records on me from different entities. So that's why, for me specifically, it was a concern. And then I just released 2 articles actually pertaining to the mandamus suits, where literally 2 minutes after this document is entered into the computer, I'm getting an email from this random fake name, but it has Kevin Mathewson's tactics all over it. 2 minutes after I'm getting this email, and then within 40 minutes, he's sending requests to the courthouse for a digital copy. And we've exposed that somewhere in this courthouse, and presumably room 204, that there's a leak going to Mathewson, because he had a copy of the entire document plus my petition to seal the address, which was just ordered. At no time was talking to Rebecca. At no time was my suit emailed to him, and even the video footage that we got of him coming into room 204 he never picked up paperwork, but somebody gave him a copy because in the emails he sent me, it specifically mentions details.
Okay.
So somebody in that courthouse, and I've tried to talk to Binger, I've tried to talk to the sheriff's department, I tried to get somebody in KPD, but I could never get transferred to anybody. Nobody seems to care that there's like that. There's kind of a loophole between time when, you know, somebody files a document, and it's like, I'll use this as the example. So I file, but I also filed a petition to seal my address based on these lunatics that are stalking me. And the document became public at 3:14, but there's no order yet entered by the courts to seal the address.
Mm-hmm.
So you could walk in at 3:15, you get a copy of an unredacted document that has my address on it. So my concern was not only with me, but then you have, you know, activists like Clyde McElmore, whose address is sealed. You have Kyle Rittenhouse, who's under like super lock and key when it comes to that address. But there's like a tiny loophole in time frame when people can get actual addresses, whether it's, you know, a victim, a witness, whatever it may be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody seems to really like give a shit that there's somebody in that courthouse is leaking stuff to him. Nobody cares.
Okay. I don't know anything about that. I know that there's ways to get records. I know that and it's possible too that there might be some type of email list or something like that, you know, if something does get filed, that you get notified. I'm not certain about that. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a private investigator, you know, none of that, but
there's RSS feeders that, like we talked about that in the article too, that it is possible, and it's a plausible way that he may have been notified, but to physically have gotten my document, there's no way he got that unless somebody physically handed it to him outside of that courthouse.
Okay. All right. That I know. I can't answer that for you. I know nothing about that.
Yeah. I tried to call all the different entities to like warn them, like, hey, something's not right here. Like, things are not explained. It doesn't explain how he physically got a copy of this because nothing shows that the copy was given to him. So I was trying to like warn everybody because there is a potential to safety when it comes to all types of people. It's just like the DA's office didn't care, the sheriff's office didn't care, like courthouse did very limited. You know, I was just concerned of everybody's safety. And everyone keeps kind of saying, not our responsibility. It's like, well, when does it become the responsibility? When somebody gets hurt? Or, like, at what point? How do we protect people better while still obviously maintaining the right to public access?
Well, so as far as the courthouse goes, you know, the city has no jurisdiction over the courthouse or what goes on in there. Courthouse security falls to the sheriff's department. And then, you know, the actual courts themselves, you know, you got the Chief Justice for Kenosha County, and ultimately then I guess for the clerk of courts and the records and stuff like that, you know, those are elected positions, so I would suggest, you know, possibly reaching out to the county executive about that. Or we have the Common Council. I'm having a brain fart for the county's version of that. The board of, I can't think of it right now.
Okay, I can figure it out.
Yeah,
I was just concerned about people's safety because we kind of inadvertently stumbled on this loophole where if somebody has nefarious intent, they'll still have access to whether it's a domestic violence victim, a witness in some type of case. Like we even notified Binger that there's very valuable witnesses that are getting harassed by Rittenhouse's investigators with some really, really insane things that they're doing. But juvenile records, you know, like there's this weird loophole that leaves people suspect for serious safety issues.
Yeah. Well,
I'm I was just trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to let everybody know, like, man, there's this problem. Like, people need to look at this.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, if you discover something like that in the future and you feel that somebody's safety is in jeopardy here in the city of Kenosha, and it's, something where you feel that the Kenosha Police Department needs to take a look at it, feel free to reach out to me about it.
Okay.
All right. You got my email, and I'll make sure it gets in the right hands. There may not be anything that we can do legally, but, we'll certainly look at it. So, that's what we're here for. So, all right. Okay, brother. I've been on the phone with you 45 minutes and 32 seconds now. So,
well, you know what, Noswick? It's taken 8 months for us to actually talk, so I appreciate the time you spent with me.
You got my phone number. You can call me anytime.
All right.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, Kevin. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
March 31, 2021, 13, 28, 53.